Dr. Omar, a medical practitioner specializing in trauma and orthopedics, was involved in a road traffic accident on the 17th of November 2017. Following the accident, Dr. Omar filed a claim in the County Court Money Claims Centre on the 26th of November 2019, alleging that the collision occurred due to the negligence of the van driver who collided with the rear of his car. The claim sought compensation for car damage and injuries sustained by Dr. Omar and 3 other passengers. The van driver's insurer, AXA, appointed Clyde & Co. solicitors who filed a defense alleging that Dr. Omar deliberately caused the collision and had only one passenger in his car. They claimed that the claims made by Dr. Omar and his co-claimants were fundamentally dishonest. Dashcam footage provided by the van driver showed Dr. Omar's car braking sharply, causing the collision. On the 13th of November 2020, Dr. Omar filed a notice of discontinuance, but Clyde & Co. applied to the court on the 16th of November 2020, requesting a hearing to determine the fundamental dishonesty of the claims. In a hearing at Leeds County Court on the 12th of November 2021, the judge dismissed the claims, concluding that Dr. Omar caused the accident due to his erratic and possibly deliberately aggressive driving. The judge found all claimants guilty of fundamental dishonesty based on their admission that there were only 2 passengers in Dr. Omar's car, not 4. The finding of fundamental dishonesty against Dr. Omar was made using the criminal standard of proof. Additionally, it is alleged that on the 17th of February 2023, at the High Court, Dr. Omar admitted to being in contempt of court regarding the County Court claim. The High Court sentenced him to a 4-month suspended imprisonment and fined him £2,500. These concerns were raised with the General Medical Council on the 19th of January 2022 by Clyde & Company. Dr. Omar admitted to the allegations, and they were found to be proved. He also admitted that his actions constituted contempt of court. The GMC provided 2 witness statements from the legal director at Clyde & Co., while Dr. Omar provided his own witness statements and gave oral evidence during the hearing. In his witness statements, Dr. Omar admitted to the majority of the allegations but stated that he had filed the claim only on his own behalf. He claimed that the accident was genuine and resulted from an animal crossing his path. Dr. Omar mentioned that he had tried to settle the matter amicably with Clyde & Co. but was unable to reach a resolution due to their insistence on him admitting deliberate causation and fabricating passengers. He clarified that he had fully paid the costs incurred by the defense and was attempting to engage with AXA to provide fraud prevention training. During his oral evidence, Dr. Omar acknowledged that his behavior fell short of professional standards and did not intend to make excuses for it. He admitted to seeking advice from a claims handler to protect his no-claims bonus and clean driving license but acknowledged that he did not carry out sufficient due diligence on the handler's credentials. He explained that the claims handler advised him to add more people to the claim for added weight, and Dr. Omar signed the details provided by the handler without properly checking the paperwork. Dr. Omar admitted that he was aware of the dishonesty at the time of signing the particulars of claim but hesitated to admit to intentionally causing the accident. Dr. Omar expressed that he has reflected continuously on his actions over the past 3 years and has developed management and action plans to improve his decision-making skills in both personal and professional life. The tribunal also considered various documentary evidence, including emails, the court order, particulars of claim, witness statements, dashcam footage, court judgments, and Dr. Omar's response to the allegations. The evidence also included testimonials from professional colleagues, a statement of reflection from Dr. Omar, completion certificate for a probity and ethics course, and other relevant documents. The counsel, representing the GMC, emphasized that honesty is a fundamental duty of the medical profession and stated that Dr. Omar's behavior was deplorable. She argued that Dr. Omar's actions constituted a serious departure from the principles outlined in good medical practice and unquestionably amounted to misconduct. Regarding the issue of impairment, the counsel argued that based on the facts of the case, Dr. Omar's fitness to practice is impaired, a concession he himself made. The counsel contested Dr. Omar's claim of having developed insight and remediated his conduct, expressing the GMC's disagreement with his assertions. She criticized his use of buzzwords such as insight and remediation, claiming that he demonstrated little understanding of their true meaning and provided insufficient explanation for his conduct. She argued that similar life experiences and stressors are faced by many doctors, but not all engage in a conspiracy to defraud an insurance company. The counsel pointed out that Dr. Omar's dishonesty persisted over an extended period, with multiple false statements and declarations being made and signed. She contended that Dr. Omar failed to address why his misconduct occurred and what was going through his mind during the events. Consequently, she argued that he had not demonstrated true insight, as these crucial questions remained unanswered. She suggested that the lack of insight increased the risk of such behavior being repeated in the future. Referring to Dr. Omar's reflection statement, the counsel expressed doubts about its genuineness, suggesting that it might have been produced solely for the purpose of the hearing. She highlighted that the reflection statement was compiled shortly before the High Court proceedings and around the time Dr. Omar undertook a probity course in December 2022. The counsel raised concerns about the timing of the probity course, considering it suspiciously recent. She argued that a case involving such obvious criminal dishonesty should not necessitate a course to teach a doctor the difference between right and wrong. Ultimately, the counsel concluded that the seriousness of the findings warranted a finding of impairment on public interest grounds. The counsel for defense highlighted that Dr. Omar presented various documents and shared his journey with the tribunal. He emphasized the significance of stressors, noting that individuals respond differently to such experiences. He submitted that Dr. Omar now recognizes the wrongfulness of his conduct, although it took him some time to put it in writing. The counsel drew attention to Dr. Omar's reflective statement, emphasizing that the doctor will have to live with the uncertainty of not knowing why he, as a person of good character with a good income, engaged in such behavior. However, he argued that this does not negate Dr. Omar's insight. The counsel reminded the tribunal that Dr. Omar acknowledged that the situation grew larger than he anticipated over time. Nonetheless, he admitted all the allegations and fully acknowledges what transpired. Regarding language, the counsel noted that English is not Dr. Omar's first language, which he deemed a relevant factor in terms of both his testimony before the tribunal and his understanding of matters related to the county court claim. The counsel contended that while there is no such thing as a complete absence of risk of repetition, the likelihood of it occurring in this case is low due to the mechanisms Dr. Omar has implemented to exercise good judgment. In conclusion, the counsel urged the tribunal to find Dr. Omar's fitness impaired due to his misconduct while acknowledging the remediation and insight he has demonstrated thus far.
Dr. Omar admitted all paragraphs of the allegation and the tribunal found that his actions constituted serious misconduct. He admitted to knowingly signing false documents, pursuing a fundamentally dishonest county court litigation, and giving false evidence. The tribunal considered these actions to be a deliberate course of dishonest behavior over a prolonged period of time. Dr. Omar's actions were deemed extremely serious and constituted a breach of several paragraphs of good medical practice, including being dishonest, misleading, and lacking integrity. Thus, the tribunal concluded that Dr. Omar's actions amounted to serious misconduct. The tribunal found that Dr. Omar's misconduct amounted to dishonesty and brought the medical profession into disrepute. Despite his intelligence and language skills, Dr. Omar failed to provide credible explanations for his repeated dishonesty and continued to deflect blame onto others. His lack of insight and failure to address the root cause of his misconduct were concerning. The tribunal considered Dr. Omar's remedial steps, such as undertaking a probity course and writing a reflective statement, but concluded that they did not demonstrate sufficient insight or address the primary concern of his lack of integrity. The tribunal determined that the risk of repetition was not low and that Dr. Omar's fitness to practice was impaired. This finding was necessary to uphold proper standards of conduct, maintain trust and confidence in the medical profession, and serve the wider public interest. The tribunal received testimonials from colleagues, who spoke highly of Dr. Omar's dedication, integrity, and remorse. A testimonial from Dr. Omar's appraiser expressed surprise and concern about the lack of openness regarding the county court claim. Dr. Omar provided a reflective statement and admitted to being completely dishonest, expressing regret and shame. He acknowledged a fracture within himself and described his work as a moral fortress while admitting to being a different person outside of work. Dr. Omar blamed his solicitors for negligence in handling the county court claim. The tribunal also considered various documentary evidence, including appraisals, testimonials, email correspondence, and a personal development plan written by Dr. Omar. The GMC argued that erasure is the appropriate sanction in this case. They emphasized that this is a public interest case involving serious misconduct. The counsel pointed out that acceptance of wrongdoing came late and that remediation and insight were demonstrated to a limited extent, and at a late stage. The GMC argued that taking no action or imposing conditions would be inappropriate, considering the seriousness of the dishonesty involved. They asserted that erasure is necessary to maintain public confidence in the medical profession, despite acknowledging that Dr. Omar does not pose a risk to patient safety. The GMC cited several factors from the sanctions guidance indicating that erasure is warranted. On behalf of Dr. Omar, The counsel argued that the tribunal should focus solely on the allegations and not explore unrelated issues. He emphasized that Dr. Omar's attempts to rectify the situation and learn from it should be considered as mitigating factors. The counsel pointed to the evidence of one witness, which suggests that the impact on Dr. Omar's reputation has been significant. While acknowledging the seriousness of the departure from good medical practice, the counsel proposed a suspension of up to 12 months as a sufficient sanction. He argued that a long suspension would serve the public interest and allow for the development of Dr. Omar's insight. The counsel suggested that a review could be conducted at the end of the suspension period to ensure that Dr. Omar has demonstrated sufficient insight and a low risk of repetition. The counsel cautioned against the ultimate sanction of erasure, as it would have a drastic impact on both Dr. Omar and the public, who would lose a highly skilled doctor for an extended period. The tribunal has already determined that Dr. Omar's misconduct is very serious and involves a course of dishonest conduct, including lying to a court and resulting in a finding of contempt of court. The tribunal has identified several aggravating features, including Dr. Omar's limited insight into his misconduct, repeated dishonesty over a prolonged period, and the fact that his dishonesty led to a finding of contempt of court. On the other hand, some mitigating features were also identified, such as Dr. Omar's limited attempts to remediate his misconduct, admission of the allegation in full at the outset of the hearing, previous good character, and personal difficulties he was experiencing. After considering the aggravating and mitigating factors, the tribunal concluded that taking no further action was not appropriate in this case. The tribunal also determined that imposing conditions on Dr. Omar's registration would not be appropriate, proportionate, or workable. The tribunal then considered the option of suspending Dr. Omar's registration. However, the tribunal determined that erasure is the appropriate sanction in this case. The tribunal considered factors indicating that erasure is appropriate, including a serious departure from the principles of good medical practice, deliberate or reckless disregard for patient safety, abuse of position/trust, persistent dishonesty, and persistent lack of insight into the seriousness of actions or consequences. The tribunal found that Dr. Omar's repeated and serious departures from good medical practice and breach of fundamental principles justify erasure from the medical register. The tribunal also considered whether an immediate order should be imposed on Dr. Omar's registration. Despite potential difficulties faced by Dr. Omar's employers, the tribunal concluded that immediate action is necessary to protect public confidence, given the seriousness of the admitted misconduct. Consequently, Dr. Omar's registration will be suspended from the current date, and the substantive order of erasure will take effect 28 days from the date of written notification, unless an appeal is made in the interim.